Hey guys, welcome to the Hollywood Raw YouTube page. Make sure you drop a comment, like, subscribe.
Do all the fun things.
Follow
everything. We're here to entertain you guys.
What are you waiting for? Hurry up, let's go.
Enjoy.
Welcome to the Hollywood Raw podcast. My name's Adam Glyn. I'm solo today, but I'm not solo because I'm here with my friend, the host of the To Die For Daily podcast, a podcast Dax and I were recently on, Kinsey Schofield. Kinsey, how are you?
I'm so good. Thank you so much for having me. I miss Dax, but you and I have some chemistry, Adam, so this is going to work today.
I think it's going to do well. Dax right now is in Germany for the month because he's a huge David Hasselhoff fan, so he wanted to go to the country where David Hasselhoff rules. But Kinsey, I appreciate you coming out. Your podcast is awesome because you're a Royals expert. We went on your podcast. We talked about our Royal experience. But how would you explain your podcast?
Yeah, I mean, it's just a pop culture take on the British royal family. There was a lot of slurring right there. I promise I'm sober. But It's a pop culture take on the British royal family. I think that royalty can seem so stuffy, but it's also super fun to follow. And, you know, with Meghan and Harry in the States, it's become even more fun to follow. And I don't know if you have Google alerts on your name, but as I was in London for the Jubilee, it was blowing up some of the stuff you said on my podcast. The British media talking about, one of the quotes you said was, you know, that Harry and Meghan are inevitably going to need the media if they want to continue to have careers in entertainment in Hollywood. And the British media apparently loved that quote because you were splashed everywhere. So that was so fun for me in London to see all those headlines from our podcast.
I love that. Well, their podcast is definitely a hit. It's definitely very interesting. Again, I feel like a lot of Americans aren't familiar. We have people who listen all around the world, but a lot of Americans, you know, our podcast is majority audience, I would say Americans. They love the royalty, but some people are just like, they don't understand what's the big deal about it. But then after seeing the Netflix show, I get it. It's just like a real kind of soap opera series. It's fascinating. You know, there's so much going on with it. So, but I appreciate you coming on the podcast. At the end of the week, we do the weekly rundown where we talk about the top 10 stories of the week. Lately, it's been kind of crazy. I feel like it's toned down since Johnny Depp is not in the news. It's just more normal, back to normal, kind of stupid celebrity stories. However, what we try to do is fill you in so you know a little bit of what's going on before the weekend starts. The best thing to do to support this podcast is leave a review, 5-star only. If you do that, we'll actually read your review live on air. We do that a lot. And before we go to today's news, let's get to a sponsor. Hey, Kinsey, you ever like someone a lot and they don't like you back?
Oh, yeah, totally.
Okay, that's never happened to me. Selfesteem.com. Check it out, everyone. All right, let's get to the top 10 stories of the week. I'm just kidding. It's just selfesteem.com. I just made that up. It's so stupid. What am I doing? I smoked a joint before I came and did this. All right, let's do it. The number 10. We're going to start from number 10. Brad Pitt. Kinsey, you like Brad Pitt?
I love Brad Pitt.
Brad Pitt spent close to a year looking for gold in his French estate. How crazy is that? In his GQ magazine cover story, he says that a man once convinced him that one of the previous owners of his French chateau stole millions of dollars worth of gold during the medieval times and buried it in the estate. However, after a year of searching, Pitt found no treasure and discovered that the man who told him about it was seeking investment in some sort of radar company. His estate has done very well for him, actually. He's got a rosé wine that he turned into $1 million business from his estate. It's kind of wild. Brad Pitt just thinking he has, I mean, that's such a champagne problem. He think he has gold in his property that he owns in France. How cool is that?
Not only that, but like, how cool is it that we've probably had Brad Pitt's rosé and we didn't even know it if it's that successful? But isn't this like a movie plot? You know, a man searches for gold in his backyard for a year and then finds out it was all just a con because one of his neighbor investors needed $500,000 so that he could pursue his dreams. It's a movie.
It really is. It's kind of wild with the times right now, how we're all falling for a lot of these entrepreneurs or we think are real entrepreneurs. And the guy had, you know, other motives. He was trying to sell them on a business. It's kind of crazy, but can you imagine Brad Pitt just shirtless, just digging in his backyard, thinking he's got gold? Like, it's straight out of a movie. And just to have him to have like a French estate, how cool is that to own? I mean,
know. That champagne problems is the right way to describe it, though. This is Brad Pitt complaining about wasting a year of his life looking for gold in his backyard, in his $1 million mansion, while we were like mad because Uber Eats prices went up because we were stuck in our houses for COVID.
Right? Man, that is so wild. All right, let's get to number 9. Kate Bush has admitted she is shocked and excited to be discovered by young people thanks to the recent chart success of Running Up That Hill. Isn't that crazy? The 6-year-old singer's 1985 hit has climbed back to the top of the charts after being featured in popular Netflix sci-fi show Stranger Things. Bush has given a rare interview to BBC's Women Hour as a result. It's just extraordinary, the British singer has shared. I mean, it's such a great series. I thought the track would get some attention, but I just never imagined that that would be anything like this. It's so exciting, but it's quite shocking, really, isn't it? I mean, the whole world's gone mad. Isn't that crazy that Kate Bush is now a star again?
I think for the first time in her life, that song hit number 1. I could be.
It has.
Oh, right. So what I was going to ask you, though, is I have not been able to scroll through Instagram or TikTok without hearing this song in the last 2 weeks. Are you getting hit with this song left and right, too, on social media? Somehow
on my social media algorithm, it keeps popping up. And I got to be honest with you, I'm not a Stranger Things watcher. So I haven't watched this. I watched the first season, but I haven't watched after that. It's crazy that the song finally, after all these years, has reached number 1. It's kind of cool. I mean, we saw that with like Fleetwood Mac years ago, about a year ago or 2 years ago now with the guy drinking cranberry juice, how these songs that came out years ago became number 1 again, hits just from kind of these, that was from TikTok. This is from a crazy TV show, but good for her.
Yes,
good for her. I'm curious what she does from this.
And she said that her kid, for the first time in her life, her kid thinks she's cool. And that's at the end of the day, that's probably all you want, right?
You hope so. All right, number 8. After 2 years, Kendall Jenner and Devin Booker have decided to call it quits. According to a source, Kendall and Devin hit a rough patch recently and have split for about a week and a half. The couple had a really nice time in Italy together during sister Kourtney Kardashian's wedding festivities. The Insider explains, but once they got back, they started to feel like they weren't aligned and realized they have very different lifestyles. First of all, there's a source going on with this. That makes me question it. There really is. When it comes to a source and the Kardashians, I start to wonder if that source is actually Kendall Jenner. It's just them kind of controlling the narrative. However, it doesn't mean that this is a permanent breakup. According to the source, they both hope to make it work, but as of now, they are split.
Yeah, well, I also think that when the source goes directly to E, I think that you have a very good point that we should seriously consider that it's a Kardashian. We also heard from the source that Kendall is the one that made the decision. She said she wanted the distance. But also, if I'm being honest with you, looking at this rundown, this was my least favorite story. I was actually pretty torn up about this because they're my favorite Kardashian couple. I really do like them much more than I like anybody. Kourtney and Travis molesting each other on red carpets, and we're about to get into what Kim and Pete do in their spare time. Truly, Kendall and Devin are my favorite couple, so this is really disappointing.
I thought they were going to be in it for the long run. I just felt like they handled it very well. They didn't put themselves out there as much as everyone else, so it was just like a very nice sort of in what we would consider a normal relationship.
Yes.
So I actually thought this was going to go the distance. Again, a lot of the words in this story are very, again, as a journalist, I see a lot of strong words coming from Kendall's camp in this story that are very subliminal. So I think it's more of her trying to control the narrative of what happened there. But we're going to get to number 7. Number 7, another Kardashian story, and this one's kind of gross. Kim Kardashian was on The Tonight Show this week promoting her new skincare line called Skin by Kim, and she revealed that her and her boyfriend, Pete Davidson, like to pop each other's pimples. I mean, that's what it sounded like to me.
Yeah.
But what she said is we go to dermatologists together. We inject our pimples together. The dermatologist is like, "Is this contagious? You guys always have pimples at the same time."
Oh.
Ugh, that's so gross. She described her skincare she described skincare as one of her major bonding things with Pete. She said it's a very romantic gesture, as one time she had a pimple on her face and she kept reminding Pete, "Don't let me go to sleep without putting cream on my pimple. Don't let me go to sleep without putting cream on my pimple." And she fell asleep and she woke up and there was cream on her pimple. I guess when she was sleeping, Pete rubbed the cream on her face. Isn't that romantic?
Yeah, I mean, stars just like us, except not. I really thought that this was so gross. And she just wore Marilyn Monroe, the sexiest woman in the world, an icon. She just wore this woman's dress. You are similar to this woman. Be this sophisticated, glamorous being. We don't need to hear stories like this. I don't know what the objective was in telling us this story, but I just think it's so far off from brand, which is glamour, and you want to be me. I really just thought I just was so grossed out by this.
Yeah,
You're
this was gross. I mean, it's one of the stuff like you're not 14 years old anymore. You don't talk about pimples if you get them. Like, again, it's life. It's sort of gross. It's crazy to me that this became news. Like, that's how powerful they are and big they are. That's something that's so like just nonsense and so like I would even consider this news. People are like, "Oh, this is a headline."
Yeah.
It's just for them just talk about gross, dude. That's just
no thanks.
Pete is like growing on her. All right, number 6. This was actually a surprise to me because I didn't know this. Mindy Kaling is working on Legally Blonde 3 as a writer. You know, she's a comedian. She's a writer. I didn't know this, but she's a self-proclaimed super fan of the movie series. She says, "We are working on a draft of the movie, and hopefully it'll be done by like midsummer. Then we're going to turn it into Reese, and it's always weird when you're working for your friend because you're like, I hope you like it because obviously the role is so iconic for her, and I love the character so much, so I want her to be happy." I got to be honest with you. I never saw Legally Blonde 1 or 2. It's just, I mean, I get it, but was it that iconic of a movie? I mean, if you're doing 3 of them, I'm sure, but in your opinion, were you that much of a fan of the movie?
The very first one, I'm sure I've seen the second, but I have no recollection of it because it was not as memorable. But the first one was so memorable. But she talks about this. Unfortunately, you haven't seen it, so you're not going to have flashbacks, but there's this great storyline throughout it where it's the bend and snap and it's how to get a man's attention. And she talks about how that narrative would not work today. I mean, we're probably thinking like consent then kiss. You know, it just the humor that was so popular back then is appalling now to some people. So I think she's got a really tough job ahead of her to keep that charm of the original Legally Blonde, but to stay up to date with how offended we all are by everything.
Yeah, no, it's hard. Like you watch the new Sex and City remake and you see how woke it is. And it's so, I mean, it's not, the jokes are just not strong for me. The new Sex and City, and maybe that's because of my I might be just being a little angry about my issues with Sarah Jessica Parker, just the way she has treated me over the years. However, the jokes are just so, you see from a mile away, and it's very woke. So you wonder if this new, Legally Blonde will be like that. It's hard to make a comedy these days.
Yes.
Mindy's super talented, so I'm excited to see what she does. And will I watch it? Probably not. However, I'm excited to see what people have to say about it.
I don't think you're the demo, so I think
I'm
it's
not
fun.
the demo. You know who I'm a demo of?
Huh.
David Dobrik, our number 5 story. So David Dobrik, you know him. He's the YouTube star, social media star. Probably at one point was one of the biggest YouTube stars. But in the past few years, he's kind of slowed down because, it's a hateful world and people trying to throw hate on him. And he kind of suffered from that. However, His former friend and collaborator is suing the YouTube star over a near-death stunt that landed him in the hospital in 2020. And I remember this. This is a crazy story. Jeff Wittick, who's also a popular social media star himself, is seeking $10 million in damages to cover the cost of lost wages and earning capacity, as well as hospital bills he attained as a result of the accident. Which, number one, I'm surprised it's only $10 million because Jeff is so successful that I thought he was going to be making more than just $10 million. So I thought there was more. I thought he could get more money out of it. However, Jeff alleged in the lawsuit that Dobrik had been operating a excavator. I think that's the name of the machine, which basically it's like a crane that kind of picks up stuff and kind of spin it around if you want to. So Dobrik was operating the excavator that was placed in the ocean for a stunt in June 2020 and asked his pals to swing from the machine using a rope while riding several objects. Wittick said that when it was his turn, Dobrik allegedly began swinging the excavator too fast, which caused him to slam into it and get seriously injured. I mean, he was beat up. He almost went blind from this. I think he broke his foot. I mean, he had so many surgeries on his eye, and it was a very, very gnarly thing. It's crazy that it's just now that he kind of did the lawsuit. Dobrik has said this is one of the worst things that's ever happened to him, and he still feels so bad. I mean, it was a complete accident. I am surprised by this, again, that it's only a $10 million lawsuit in damages. I thought Jeff would be going at him for more money. Why? Because Dobrik, A, has more money, and B, Jeff got seriously injured. I mean, he almost died from this, and he did lose out on a lot of stuff. I mean, the guy is super successful and does make a lot of money on his own. So,
but don't you wonder if David really did feel that bad and horrible about it? Why wouldn't he have just paid his hospital expenses? Why wouldn't he have just taken care of those expenses that he's going after? Because if I knew that I had done something to injure somebody and I did have the money, I would just pay the bills. And I would hope that paying the bills would make things okay between us so that I didn't end up in a court of law with a judge that very potentially could tell the both of them that they're idiots and common sense says not to do the type of stunts that they're doing.
Yeah. You're right. But here's the thing. I think once I wasn't there, neither of us were there. When something like this happens and it's a complete accident, for legal reasons, it says, I think you just have to say, you know what, I can't accept your money at this point. I'm going to have to go through insurance to kind of pay for the damages. And after that, then we'll figure things out. Because at what point do you say, I think you need legal papers or just a court assigned document to figure out, okay, what's the exact money exchange going to be? Because obviously you're at fault for this. I mean, was he forced to do it? It's weird. It's a very tricky slope. And I just think for legal reasons, they have to kind of go through the court system. It's with insurance. It's actually probably the machine's insurance. So with all the insurance companies involved, I think just there's no choice but to go through That's
very mature of you, Adam. That's a very mature
I'm getting
answer.
better. I'm getting more mature, But no, it's not mature. Teen mom Farrah Abraham, our number 4 story. She's been charged with battery for allegedly slapping a security guard outside a Los Angeles club back in January. Remember this video?
I do.
This was a fun one. The mom was once charged on June. The mom was was charged on June 2nd and has an arraignment sent for June 23rd. She's facing up to a year in prison and a $2,000 fine. According to TMZ, Abraham was asked to leave the club but refused. Cops were then called after initial citizen's arrest was made. This is not Abraham's first time. Abraham's first time around the block, as she pleaded guilty in November, I think it was 2018, to a misdemeanor charge of resisting police after she got into another fight with a security guard at the Beverly Hills Hotel in June of that year. She was sentenced to 2 years probation and 5 days of community service. So I remember seeing that video. It was a wild video because it was pretty long. She had a citizen's arrest, but now she's facing up to a year in prison for this. Will she probably serve a year in prison? Probably not. How it ends, I would say similar to what she's already kind of was sentenced to, which was probation and community service. What do you think? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think what's really interesting about this is that her attorneys are doing their entire own investigation because they really truly feel like she is the victim here. I haven't investigated this enough to have a real opinion on it. I just know that Farrah is constantly in trouble. But the fact that they are doing their own investigation, could they potentially find some piece of evidence that proves that she was handled inappropriately? They very well could. So I don't know. I really don't have an opinion on whether or not I think she should go to jail. I just know that Farrah finds herself in trouble quite often. And if I were her, I'd take a step back from nightclubs and bars and focus on being a good mom to my young daughter, because she's setting an example for her daughter with all of these things.
You know, you want to sort of hate Farrah Abraham. I think a lot of people want to throw shade to Farrah Abraham because, yes, she does these paparazzi setup shots where she shows off her butt or her new relationship or when she was milking the sex tape. But she also understands the business. From my experiences, to be honest with you, she's been super nice. She came on our podcast. I really, really enjoyed the interview. She came on time, which I'm always impressed with. But she's also very cool. She's very business. So that's just my personal experience with her. However, I was not at the scene when this incident went down. We'll see how it ends. Right now, it's not looking good for her. However, I don't think she'll ever serve a year in prison.
No way.
Let's get to number 3. Elon Musk's daughter is officially free of her famous last name. She's been granted the name and gender change she requested. So his daughter, Vivian Jenna Wilson, which is her new name, she's no longer going to be –
Xavier, I think it was.
Yeah, she's not going to have a Musk as her last name, as her famous father. Which now her last name, again, her name is Vivian Jenna Wilson. Wilson is her mother's maiden name. She was also granted a gender change. Vivian identifies as a female in the doc state, and a new birth certificate reflecting to the change in gender will soon be issued. So she's going to change her gender. Vivian says the reason for her change is that the fact I no longer live with or wish to be related to my biological father in any shape, way, or form.
Can I just really quickly interrupt you because I have so many thoughts on this. But first of all, I looked up the name Vivian Jenna Wilson. I looked it up on Instagram out of curiosity the other day, and it's like a rump shaker account. And if I'm going to legally change my name for the world, I'm going to go on the internet and I'm going to scour the internet and make sure nobody else is associated with this name who's got a booty shaking account. It's like just a woman shaking her rump. And so that like amazed me that she legally changed her name to it's Vivian Jenna Wilson. And on the internet, there's a woman who is going viral every day shaking her booty. But also, there's a thing called nepotism. Ask Patrick Schwarzenegger, ask Meghan McCain. Having the last name Musk will serve you so well in life. You really, really should reconsider distancing yourself from your dad, because your father will open so many doors that you're not even aware of, and probably already has opened so many doors that you're not even aware of.
I don't disagree with you. It's just a matter of, does she want those doors open, or does she want to prove that she could do it on her own? The question for that I have is, does Elon leave her in the will still? Does he come back and say, when everything goes, when I'm no longer here, you get a certain percentage of my money or my sharings? Is she in the will?
Yeah, that's a good question.
I don't know. All right, number 2, and I need your help on this story. Number 2, Kate Middleton and Prince William, and that's why I have you're the royalty queen. So I need your help on this story because I don't understand these people.
Absolutely.
Kate Middleton and Prince William viewed a special piece of artwork on Thursday, their first official joint portrait. The two, William and Kate, both 40, stopped by the University of Cambridge's Fitzwilliam Museum in the heart of Cambridge, where they viewed the painted artwork as revealed to the public for the first time. Why is this a big deal?
Well, this is a big deal for 2 reasons. Number one is because on Monday it was Prince William's 40th birthday, and he did not release an official portrait of himself. And the royal watchers were absolutely livid. I mean, there were headlines about how furious royal watchers were that they didn't get an official portrait of Prince William. So this was a surprise to not only, I mean, it was truly really a surprise to royal watchers that they were going to get to see this for the first time. Portraits, royal portraits, are a part of the pomp and circumstance. They become part of history. I mean, really, 200 years from now, this picture might be one of the photos that people see in history books or in a museum. So it's just one of the it's just a traditional thing that they do, that they get their portraits painted. And, if you think of Princess Diana, some of the beautiful portraits that were painted of Diana, and the Queen. But this was a big deal because it's their first one together. They've been married for over 10 years, and one day they will be hopefully king and queen consort. So it's a big deal for the royal world.
Do you like the painting?
I think it's so beautiful, and sometimes they are so hideous. So I was relieved that it was so lovely because I've seen some fugly.
Yeah, no, it's an interesting painting. And listen, if someone's going to paint you, it's just cool. If someone's going to pay me, I'm like, yeah, I'm going to put that up. That's pretty badass. But then you're saying it's part of history, even though that we have iPhones now, we just put a cell phone photo, a selfie of them on the wall. It's like, no, paint us. Okay, cool. So that's going to be part of the history books. On to the number one story of the week. Bill Nye is officially off the market, ladies and confused gentlemen. He has married author Liza Mundy last Monday. Liza Mundy last month. He married her outside the Smithsonian. Dude. Oh, God, this is a tongue twister. He married author Liza Mundy last month outside the Smithsonian Institute's castle in Washington, D.C. After the couple exchanged vows in front of family and friends and their efficient Star Trek alum Robert Picardo, Bill and Liza celebrated with a reception where they had their first dance to Sam Cooke's version of Wonderful World. I love this. How did they meet? The Mundy mentioned Bill Nye's mom in her 2017 book, Code Girls, the Untold Story of American Women Code Breakers of World War II. Nye then reportedly sent her an email and a bond was formed. Pretty cool to find love after 60, especially in showbiz.
I waited all day to make this joke. Bill Nye, the monogamous guy.
Wow, there you go.
Thank
okay.
You. Thank you.
We'll see
no, it's
happens.
So great to see them. And I, too, love their love story. That her introduction to him was through interest in his mother. She wrote about his mother in a book, and then he sends an email just to thank her for acknowledging his mother, and then they fall in love. I mean, is this not a Hallmark movie? Sign me up. Where it's the popcorn? I am in it to win it. Yeah,
I love seeing an over 60 love story. I think it's kind of nice. It's kind of fun, and it's kind of uplifting for a lot of people. But that's our top 10 stories of the week. We are the Hollywood Raw, the number one anti-pollution entertainment news podcast out there. If you listen to another entertainment news podcast, you're supporting pollution or anti-pollution. Make sure you guys leave a review. But Kinsey Schofield, people go check out your podcast at the To Die For Daily podcast. If you love the Royals, you're going to love her podcast because, listen, she is an expert. I've never seen someone who has so much more information on the Royals. It's so good. It's so fun, so interesting. And I thank you for hanging out with me. Make sure you check out our podcast, To Die For Daily podcast. My name is Adam Glyn. Follow me at Adam Glyn. Dax Holt in Germany. I don't even know what you say goodbye in Germany. How do you say Guten Tag? I don't know. That's hi.
I don't know.
Shout out to Dax. We'll see you guys next time.
Bye.
What's up, guys? If you like that video, there's plenty more where that came from.
Make sure you like, subscribe, hit the bell so we can just feed you all the goodness daily.
Hurry up. Come on. Let's go.